Hello everybody, today I will be ranking the best 5 carries in Mythic Heroes. As always, this is my opinion, and I did make a tier list 2 weeks ago, I think, where I ranked all the heroes, but those did not include URs, which I will be including in this video. And I won't only be talking about like the early game, so yeah, I'll give a more in-depth look onto each of the heroes, like a little bit of a guide on how they all work. So let's get started. Alright, for number 5 we have Archimedes. So Archimedes as a hero itself is a very fragile glass cannon that deals massive burst damage. His biggest problem, by the way, he's a ranged hero, right? His biggest problem is how squishy he is. And after his ultimate, he has a bit of downtime. As you can see here, his ultimate basically makes him attack super fast, but after his ultimate ends, he will need to repair his airship for 5 seconds. Now it's important to note that he cannot take damage, or he takes only 1 damage per attack during this time, but it's a lot of missed out damage potential because he just has to sit there and do nothing. So I'll give you guys a demonstration of how he works first. I'm going to go to my friends list, try this guy, and right. So I want you guys to look at his health right now. You see he goes down really fast, his health bar, but then he gains a massive shield and then shreds everyone and then gains a ton of energy. So what's really happening here isn't really a consequence of how good Archimedes is, it's because of how good Odin is. So paired up with Odin, Archimedes, if Archimedes receives this skill, Raven Guardians, he will be able to shred everyone and gain a massive shield. So Archimedes relies on fast auto attacks in order to do damage, and this skill gives a shield. 100% of Odin's attack will be generated for the auto attacker. So if you make sure Raven Guardians triggers on Archimedes, he becomes a monster. So one downside for Archimedes, for it to activate really consistently, you kind of have to have Odin on the front line, or no, Archimedes as a front line, and make sure that Archimedes has lower health than the other frontline ally, which is usually Odin. So because Archimedes is so, fragile on his own, he's likely to be the one with the lowest health. The reason this is you know, this is a downside is because he cannot receive Morrigan's Meet Fate buff, which is really good on every single carry. Or Meet Fate buff, which basically makes it so that one ally gets invincibility and potentially a revive when they're supposed to die. So one way you can mitigate this is by placing Archimedes on the back line. And Odin's Raven Guardian skill will actually trigger on a backline ally if all frontline allies are gone. So that can help in campaign, but this cannot activate super consistently or as consistently as it can if you put Odin Archimedes in the front line. So in PvP, I don't think it's a reliable way to score wins. That's why I'm putting him at number 5, but he's still really, really good. Alright, number 4, it's Susanoo. So I don't have Susanoo built, actually. I have only 3 copies of him. Never put anything into him. Oh yeah, before we get into that, I will show you guys how to build Archimedes. So pretty much, you're gonna want to put Fire Axe. Axe is really good because it scales off auto attacks, and he does a lot of auto attacks, so usually you want to run Axe. For his divinities, there are a couple interesting ones. If he keeps dying, you can put Panacea. If you want more attack, you can put a Colossus. Primal Totem is always good. I think it's near a necessity for PvP, but for bossing and stuff, you can put, Culmination or other damage bonuses. And recovery, I don't think recovery is super necessary. So it's really Panacea, Colossus, maybe Water Drop, Primal Totem, Prevail, and Culmination that you want to consider when you're using his divinities. And for his iconic weapon, so this iconic weapon skill is really good. These, his 500 skill is it's not that good. One extra energy, it's pretty so-so. And finally, this one is really good for bossing. Otherwise, it's also not that good. So, if you want to invest in him, I say getting him to 400 on his weapon is good enough. But if you really want to min-max him, you can always get him to 600 if you have a lot of resources. Okay, so anyways, getting back to Susanoo. So how he works is he scales off crit. Crit chance is really significant on him. So also he has a unique skill where, pretty unique skill, where he teleports to the enemy directly across from him, deals pretty significant damage, and stuns them. So that is very good. He is very single target focused. He doesn't really have any splash skills to, damage everyone at the same time. But he's very good at what he does. Before you get him to level 181 though, he will be very fragile, like nearly unusable level of fragile. But this is mitigated by his level 3 here on Precision Strike, which recovers 20% of his current missing health with every crit. And this guy will crit a lot. Like his base crit chance is increased by 25%. He can increase his attack speed based on crit. There are skills, his skills, as we'll see in the iconic weapon. He can make his ultimate always crit. Finally, for Tempest Blade, he deals a pretty good amount of damage and it's not dodgeable. For Phantom Fury, it's just a bunch of damage again. Alright, so his iconic weapon is actually really good. So for the first 15 seconds of battle, this is his 500. Increased crit damage by 50% is huge. All his earlier ones are also huge. 20 energy for every crit dealt. He'll be doing a lot of crits. He hits many times at once. First hit of Phantom Fury deals additional damage equal to 20% of the target's current health. I mean, this just makes his ultimate damage even more ridiculous. And the last sword hit also deals additional damage equal to 20% of target's lost health. That's just pretty crazy. And finally, his iconic weapon 600. The ultimate cannot be dodged and is guaranteed to crit. So after unlocking this, I know a few people who have unlocked this. After unlocking this iconic weapon 600, uh, the people who do have him say that he's pretty much never failed to secure a kill after ulting. So this is basically an instant kill for his ultimate. It's pretty busted. Alright, so I don't think I can demonstrate him because mine is so bad. But, yeah, I think I went over him good enough. Now finally for his divinities. Animus is really good on him, I think. He needs more survivability. That gives him a lot of survivability. And Culmination is also pretty good. I don't think it's a necessity on him. Transcend is not something you want to run usually. Vexation, same with Vexation. It's okay, but it's not really what synergizing with his burst, single target kit. Corrosion's really good on him. He wants to deal more damage, this helps him deal more damage. Sunder, if you're against this, shield reliant heroes like Odin or Apollo, this is really good. This one, Spirit Flash, don't run this. Just don't run this. Death Waver is really good. It doesn't really synergize with Morgan, but if you're not using Morgan with him or Morgan's activating on another hero, Death Waver is always good. And Savvy. Savvy is pretty much a must-have. Increased damage dealt from actuals by 25%, that's big. Finally, let's get to the equipment. Equipment here, I think the best is Axe along with Fire. So, let's check. Yeah, most people run with an Axe Fire. Makes sense because Axe increases damage and Fire increases crit rate. For the first 20 seconds of battle, increases crit chance by 15%, and it deals extra damage. So, yeah, that is Susanoo for you. Alright, next up, number 3, we have Apollo. So, Apollo, I'm kind of biased towards him, but it's no question he's a very good damage dealer. So, he's another auto attack heavy hero. It's not really his ultimate, his active skills that super significant. Of course, they do a lot, but much of his power comes from his auto attacks, and his auto attacks are busted. So after his auto attack hits a target, he'll basically gain attack speed and breakthrough. Breakthrough is basically the amount of defense he can ignore. So the more breakthrough he has, the more damage he deals, and the more defense he ignores. So if his auto attack target, if he's like attacking one target and keeps attacking it, he'll gain a bunch of breakthrough, attack speed, and healing. And if he switches targets, he'll gain a shield. So either way, he gets buffed by his auto attacks. Radiant Fission. So basically, this is basically another part of his auto attack. There's a 33% chance to shoot like a laser in front of him, and reduce enemy accuracy while dealing a lot of damage. So as you'll see later, this will get pretty significant damage boost from his weapon. Passionate Movement. He deals damage equal to 200% of his attack and increases his own defense by 100%. Okay, and all these skills, 2, 3, and 4, basically gives him extra damage and stuns, or knocks them into the air. And if he has 3 stacks of Luminance, he will deal a ton of damage. That's 200%, 220%, 240%, 260%. He'll hit 4 times, each attack uh, increasing in power, and that's almost 1000% damage, so it is very significant. And finally, his ultimate, he pulls everyone in. He's a very close range centric fighter, so he pulls everyone in, and he basically eats them up with his auto attack. And yeah, Radiant Fission does pierce, so like it says here equal to his attack to all enemy units directly in front of him. So Golden Chariot pulling all the enemies in is very, very good. Alright, so his weapon. Uh, when he has 6 stacks of Rising Sun, if you recall, that's the thing that increases his breakthrough and attack speed. He can regenerate up to 6% max health per second. That is really big. That is huge. Like if we look at like a healer, like Naga Kanya, her ultimate restores 4% equal to their max health every second. So that is hella big. All right. As for his other skills on his iconic weapon, they're all of them are really good. So this basically increases his healing. This is pretty much a must-have. It's really big. 10 seconds is huge. So every time his auto attack target is switched, he becomes immune to control for 10 seconds. And then this one, the iconic weapon 600, is massive for survivability. Whenever Apollo hits a target with his auto attack, he gains a shield with a value of 80% of his attack for 5 seconds. So every time he hits with his auto attack, he gains a massive shield, pretty big shield. And this shield does stack, so it will grow bigger and bigger. And additionally, whenever Radiant Fission is triggered, extra damage equal to 80% of his shield's current value will also be dealt. So Apollo has a bunch of shields, so this actually boosts his damage by pretty nice amount, while boosting his survivability by an insane amount. He's already really hard to kill as is. This just makes it ridiculous. And this one's pretty okay. Increases radiant fission percentage to 50%. So every 1 out of 2 attacks he'll do his laser move, statistically speaking. Okay, for his divinity. So I have his divinity is really weird, but I'll be talking about like how optimal each of these are. So culmination is always good, but I feel like there are better ones. Animus is a must-have. Animus generating shields, we really need this one on him. This makes him really tough to kill. Brighton's pretty mid. Skip on Brighton. Annihilation, unless you're facing like, a campaign stage with Anubis where you really gotta kill the summons, this is not needed. Toxicity. Toxicity is really good. It boosts his damage by a pretty large amount, and yeah, that's always good for DPS. Time lapse. Time lapse is a must-have. The stun. The stun is really big, considering how fast he attacks as well. Uh, and let's see. So chaotic power and fanaticism. So I personally don't use fanaticism. I don't think you should as well, but it's always an option, right? It's not completely useless, like something like annihilation. And for chaotic power, so here's a funny story. Back into the gladiator arena, there was this person using a Marduk Apollo team, and they would always their Marduk. I had to kill it quickly, or else it would kill my entire team. So I had to run chaotic power on Apollo in order to kill Marduk before he can activate his ultimate. It just kind of stuck on. So chaotic power is situational. Like if you really, really have to kill someone quickly in the beginning of the battle, you can always use chaotic power. But otherwise, I'd recommend Animus, Time Lapse, and Toxicity. And it's kind of different here. I don't think. Oh yeah, Supernova. Supernova's decent. I think Time Lapse, uh, Animus, and Toxicity is better though, but it's always an option. Okay, for the equipment, Fire Axe is always good because he is a damage dealer. Fire Axe helps him deal more damage. Another option though, you can run Shield Earth or Shield Axe because, sorry, not Shield Axe, Earth Axe, because Earth reduces damage taken, and he's already like a brick wall, and if you put Earth Runes, it just becomes ridiculous. Like, if you put him on a defense team, and you put Earth Runes on him, it's likely that the opponent can't even kill him. Like, the battle will last the full 1 minute 30 seconds, you'll win the defense because they just can't kill your Apollo. Okay. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about him. I'll give him a quick demonstration. I'll do it in the arenas here. No, I'll do it because I used up all my free battles. Alright, this guy again. Apollo. Alright, yeah. He's just kind of ridiculous like that. He just doesn't die. I'm gonna speed this up a little bit, but I don't think the opposing team is gonna win. So as you can see there, Apollo is an expert on 1v5ing teams, and he just demonstrated that. And he's at full health with a pretty big shield on at the end. So yeah, impossible to kill, pulls everyone in, deals pretty decent damage. So what can be better than that? This guy. Oda Nobunaga is the next number 2 of my list of top 5 carries. He's a UR. He's going to be the first UR I'll be talking about. And his main source of damage comes from the ultimate. Basically, when his ultimate triggers, he gains the Demon Lord, which is like a kind of a summon, but it's not targetable. The Demon Lord will basically deal AoE damage, and it hits all enemies regardless of where they are. And this scales off energy, so the more energy he has, the more damage the Demon Lord is able to do. But honestly, his damage is so ridiculously high that it doesn't really matter if you run like energy boosting runes like Dark Runes. So personally, I run for divinities, I run Excitement and Dark Runes because I need him to ult as soon as possible in PvP. Okay, so Nobunaga is extremely squishy. Let's take a look at their defense stats. They're relatively similarly built, like in terms of, how much resources I put into them. But look, Apollo has 328,000, he has 240,000. And look at Odin. Odin, I didn't even build as well. He's only plus 25, 353,000. So his defense is really lacking. What makes up for this is Destructive Rhythm. Okay, so the reason I want him to ult so quickly is I need him to activate his ultimate and then use Destructive Rhythm. As you see here, the Destructive Rhythm steals the enemy's defense. So after every 2 auto attacks, he'll do a very strong extra auto attack that will steal 50% of the target's defense. So if he does this to the entire team, he gains so much defense that he becomes very tough to kill. So that's really why I want to activate this. I'll give him a demonstration real quick. I won't use this guy anymore. Oh, this team's actually strong. So, alright, let's see. So I'll actually have to build a team. So I'm also going to demonstrate the power of Morrigan. I'm going to use Morrigan here. Western Queen to buff Oda. Oops. And Freya, because she boosts his attack speed, and then finally Faust, just to be annoying and deal a lot of damage. And then you'll be able to see how he works basically. Once he charges his ultimate up, which is pretty quick, I'd say, because I gave him a bunch of energy boosting stuff, he becomes crazy. Like, he will 1v5. Like, if you didn't see that, everyone just died, except Tamamo. Well, she died in the end, too. But yeah, he's crazy. So, in order to counter him, you really can use many things to counter him. He's like not hard to counter on defense. You can use Faust to stun him and kill him before he can activate his broken ultimate. And if they don't put the right divinities on him, he might have a harder time getting his ultimate off. And for runes, sorry, are these called runes? Yep, for runes, I would put on either Dark or Axe, or even Earth. Honestly, you could probably put on Earth, but because he needs to survive. But I think generally Dark or Fire is the best, as well as Axe. If you really want to, you can put on Staff of Sharer. And what's really funny, 195 people use this. Ultimate deals an extra 45% damage. This does nothing. His ultimate doesn't actually deal damage. It buffs him, so he can deal more damage. But it doesn't actually do damage, so whatever you do, do not run this. For his divinities, so I have here Maestro, Torment, and Excitement for maximum damage with energy charge. I would run Death Waver, but I have Morgan to protect him from death. For bossing, you put on Collective Fervor, which basically, gives a bunch of energy to him and his teammates. So the good divinities to run on him, Torment and Maestro are always good for more damage. Death Waver helps him survive a little after he's supposed to die. And Primal Totem is generally just really good. Finally, if you really need him to ult fast, you put on Excitement. So finally, let's take a look at his weapon. His weapon is very significant. His iconic weapon, 500% especially. This basically increases his damage based on how many times Destructive Rhythm steals enemies' defenses. So if he steals everyone's defense at once, this 10% goes up to 50%. So Oda's damage dealt is increased by 50%. And then each time Sakura Blade is used, it's one of his active skills, he increases his attack speed for 50% and will be immune to control skills to 5 seconds. So all 5 of these are pretty much really necessary. IW 500 is completely attainable. IW 600 is very hard because he takes so many infinite soul steals and so much pure essence, but this is one of the most broken things I've ever seen. When the Demon Lord is summoned, every subsequent time when Oda uses its auto attack or active skills, its damage dealt will be increased by an additional 4%. This effect will stack until the Demon Lord disappears. The thing is, the Demon Lord never disappears. Like, it's if you run like Dark especially or energy restoring stuff, like it's gonna last for nearly the entire battle, especially aided by the 200 energy he gets from kills. So this is a 4% damage bonus per hit. This just makes his damage insane. At this point, if you have IW 600, Earth is definitely an option because as long as he's alive, he will kill the enemies. Like there's not a single hero in the game that can consistently survive Oda's onslaught. So yeah, this is the ultimate damage dealer. Um, but there is still one ahead of him, and that is Amaterasu. So I don't have her completely built yet. But basically Amaterasu is her damage is noticeably less against like big teams, right? In bossing she's really good, but in terms of damage, it's less than Oda's. That's just fact. So what makes her so good is her passive right here, Bent Light. So she has 4 mirrors, which will soak 4 hits and reflect them. And as long as it's less than 25% of her max health, uh, the damage will deal no damage to her and will be completely reflected to the enemy. And other than that, her auto attacks deals insanely high damage. Her ult deals pretty high damage as well, and her passive is just really annoying. But it's mostly this bent light passive here that makes her so good. So if we take a look at her weapon, all of her iconic weapons are pretty good, except her 600. Uh, her 500 is really broken though. The mirrors for bent light will ignore the percentage requirement when reflecting any magical damage directed at Amaterasu. So ironically, Amaterasu, a mage, is the best mage counter in the game. This murders any mage. It doesn't matter if you're a nuker, it doesn't matter if you do like lower damage, this will reflect the magical damage no matter what. Like something like someone like Tamamo no Mei or Lilith who can deal massive magical damage will get shredded, will actually shred themselves after attacking Amaterasu. And she also synergizes really well with Morrigan. One of the top team compositions is with Morrigan and Amaterasu. Um, and her equipment, I put on Thunder Runes and Staff on her because I don't have good spares for fire. I have 3 fighters I'm using fire on, so no good fire runes, but this works okay. A bunch of people use Sudarshana Chakra. Personally, I don't think that's a play. I feel like much of her damage comes from her auto attacks. Of course, her ultimate does deal a good chunk of damage, but I feel like most of it comes from both the auto attacks and bent light. For her weapon, like I said, all parts of her weapon is good, but her 600 is kind of mid. It's not worth the resources, honestly. And then finally, let's take a look at her divinities. Right now I'm running Gravitational Field because she's not built. She's so fragile, she needs the damage reduction. Well, it's only 10 seconds, maybe not. But usually you have to run Spotlight on her. Spotlight is probably the best offensive passive uh, divinity in the game. And it basically ensures that she never misses. For the second slot, you can always put Wrath on her to help her deal more damage. Collective Fervor for bossing, of course. Divine Fire is pretty mid. Sunder if you go against Apollo or some shielded guy. But yeah, honestly, it's probably just gonna be Wrath and Spotlight if you can. Okay, now for demonstration. Go back to my friends list. I'll use someone new. Oh, I can't use this dude. This guy's like really powerful. Kuros 41. Alright. So let's put on Amaterasu. And I think this should be enough to win. We will see though. Alright. So as you can see, her auto attacks are shredding Apollo. Like shredding with a capital S, and then right, Zeus is like you see how Zeus is like desperately trying to hit her, but like, did he just kill himself there? I'm pretty sure he just killed himself. So yeah, like you see there, she's pretty busted. All right, so those are the 5 best carries in my opinion. Let me know what you think. If I look through the list, there are none else that really stands out to me as being better than those 5. So yeah, I think that concludes the video. Uh, if you liked it, subscribe or like the video, and I'll see everyone next time.